Hello, magical people of the internet. I am Jen, and welcome to my vlog, I Never Thought I Would, where we talk about doing things we never thought that we would do and the unexpected places that they can lead us. I have a fascinating guest today. Her name is Jennifer Ann Gordon. She's an award-winning author. She writes literary horror, and she also won the Kindle Horror Best Book of 2020. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited that you're here and I get to chat with you. I want to congratulate you on your Kindle Book Award. That is amazing.
It is amazing. It's amazing every day when I think about it, when I see the little seal on my book that says oh, best horror novel of 2020. It's exciting. I always say it was like winning an Oscar or winning a Tony. I was up early that morning checking my emails frantically, did I win? Did I win? Because I'd been a finalist. And then so it was also the day after I got married. So it was a very funny wedding night with me just every 5 minutes going, let me check my phone real quick.
That's such a scene in something.
It
It's
is.
like your wedding night and your husband's trying to have this romantic time with you and you're just on your phone honey, it's like an Oscar. More
I know.
important.
I
More
know,
important than your Oscar.
especially because it's we hadn't been out of the house in months and months because it's quarantine, and we finally go to this little bed and breakfast and we're yay, we're out of the house, and I'm obsessed with my phone for
That's hilarious. But also so exciting. And I'm sure your husband was thrilled for you and
he
very
was when
supportive.
I finally got the message that I had won. He was asleep because he's a normal human person, and I woke him up and I was just I won.
That's so cool. You have several books. You're very creative. And as we know, creative people tend to make some wacky decisions. So I'm sure you've done maybe one or
I
two things in your life you never thought you would.
yes, I have, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to talk about.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to say I never thought I would become a burlesque performer. I
That's
was
so much fun.
it is so much fun. I was so shy growing up, so really, really shy, and everybody was shocked that I did theater because I couldn't do a book report in front of the class, but I
Yeah.
could get on stage and perform. Um, but everybody, most women, most people, we have insecurities, we have body image issues. Um, and I've always been that girl, that woman who's been oh, I'm fat. Can you see this? Can you see this little fat roll? And I don't know if that comes from being a performer and being a dancer for so long that you're constantly looking in mirrors.
Mhm.
So I never thought I would have the confidence to, take off my clothes in public and perform. But
Mhm.
and it started very slowly. I started choreographing for burlesque performers because I'm a dancer, and burlesque performers were oh, I want a really nice dance piece. So I would choreograph for them, and it was so much fun to just pretend that I was that.
And they
Like
have the best costumes, and
best costumes.
it's hilarious how you get close to the costumes and this energy kind of
Yeah,
surrounds you,
it's
and then
I,
once you
I
get them on, it's just woo.
I'm telling you, I am very pale, very pasty. I'm from New England. Um, when you do a burlesque show, we're spray tanned, we're covered in glitter. I'm wearing hair extensions, so I have even more hair. There's just something freaking magical about gluing rhinestones to your face and putting on so much makeup that you forget you have that much makeup on, and then you go out to eat afterwards and the wait staff is looking at you I must look like a
Yes.
Picasso painting. It's all screwed up because it's half
Oh my
sweated off.
God. That's so cool. That's so much fun. Okay, so what was your favorite outfit? What was your favorite getup?
Oh gosh, favorite getup. I will say, after doing burlesque for a little while, I started my own burlesque troupe. So we did
Oh, wow.
full-blown theater shows. We would do two full-scale productions a year, one Halloween show, which was like dark and creepy, and then a summer show, which one year we did Midsummer Night's Dream as a
Mhm.
burlesque show. And the next year we did Once Upon a Time. So it was all based on like fairy tales and things
Oh,
like that.
cool.
So I would say my favorite costume was we did a reverse burlesque number where we started in just pasties and a thong and put
Mhm,
clothes on, because
mhm,
it was to this song called Walk of Shame, and
mhm.
we did it as the Disney princesses all had basically had like a really wild night and like woke up naked. They were like, shh, I don't know if I can swear on this show. Shoot, where are we?
Yes, you can.
And
You can do whatever you want.
shit, where are we? So that was the joke. And I had to transform into Ariel, the little mermaid. So I
Mhm.
had like this weird, like fishy kind of
Like a
skirt,
mermaid
like a
tail.
mermaid
That's the
tail,
most
and like
awkward thing to walk in
exactly like
and
so I
to get
really
on.
I know I'm like, how do I get this on?
You have to be
Um
like lying on your back.
like in a
You have to
sexy
be
way, I was.
in like a shoulder stand, the yoga
Yeah.
shoulder stand pose in order to get it on.
Luckily, it was a comedic number, so I feel like it
Okay, that's
worked. That I'm like, I can't
you're
get
like
that on.
wriggling into
Yeah.
this.
So that was probably one of my favorite costumes. And when we did our Edgar Allan Poe show, we
Mm.
did the Raven in its full, and I had like 12-foot black raven wings that I
Ah,
wore.
yeah.
They were very heavy, like to maneuver them. They were like on these like sticks inside the wings, but I love those wings.
Oh,
It's worth it when you see them, but like when you're in it, you're like, oh gosh, what the hell am I going to do with my body with these like
yeah,
giant
I've
wings?
experienced that before where you see something, whether it's like a wardrobe piece or something, and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna look so great. This is gonna look so great."
Yeah,
or you make just some sort of production choice because it's gonna look great, and then you have to live with that
you have
decision
to live with it. You have to live with it.
for more
And
than
yeah,
just one photo or
yeah,
more than just one take. And like,
yeah.
and then you're like, "Oh my God, how did I think this would be a good idea?"
um, yeah, we did this crazy number, which was like a Hansel and Gretel number, and I was the witch, but I was like the candy witch. So I was in like, all these like bright colored outfits, and I had like rainbow hair extensions, and I had like a basket of candy. And my Hansel and Gretel ended up like basically like spraying each other with whipped cream, and we had like a mock threesome on stage. But whipped cream got all over the stage,
Everyone was
all over the
slipping.
stage. And yeah, and we're like, oh gosh, we're in the middle of an act. We can't really like scrub down the stage. So that was one of those creative choices
Yes,
that
that you're just like
like what, oh,
started off
should
as
have
a
thought
good
this out.
idea, and
Yeah.
then it just was not.
Yeah. Yeah. We did a lot with like um I want to say like bodily fluids and liquid and stuff like that, but we did a lot of weird numbers. So like our
Cool.
Halloween number, we had like a vampire number where we were like dead schoolgirls. And then halfway through, we all just like opened our mouth and all this blood came out. And again, that gets all over you, gets all over the stage. And
Yeah.
it was such a great effect that every night when we did that, the entire audience screamed. They were like, yes.
Oh
But then we're backstage, like now I'm covered in fake blood. And that like that red
my
dye stains
sticky.
your
Yeah.
skin like immediately.
Mhm.
So we're like baby wiping, and then we're like wiping off our spray tans. We're like, no, get more fake spray tan. So like
Yeah.
frantic backstage
Oh
things
my
with
God.
baby wipes and everybody being like, you got fake blood on your underpants now. And we're like,
Oh my God. So that's crazy. So you started choreographing
yeah,
for burlesque dancers, which led you to burlesque dancing, which led you to having your own burlesque troupe.
true. Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
It
pretty
was
crazy.
especially so I live in New Hampshire, which is a very conservative state. And I
Yeah.
remember our very first burlesque show we did, we were still like brand new at burlesque. And I feel like when I took my costume off, like I had another full costume on underneath that was somehow like even more clothes. Like I took
Mhm.
off a dress and like a longer dress seemed to fall out. We were very conservative when we first started. And our very first show, I won't forget that we like took off my troupe, we took off our dresses. It was like a Hey Big Spender number. And like half the audience went like, oh, and closed their eyes. And then they were like, no, no, we're grown-ups. We're allowed to see this.
Oh my
Like it was
God.
so New Hampshire. And
Yes, because also it's like everybody around them is seeing them see this,
see that exactly.
so it's more about that, because if they were in a town where if they were in New York City,
It
if they
wouldn't
were in
matter.
Vegas at a show, it wouldn't
Yeah,
be
it
a big
wouldn't
deal.
matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
I think too, because I was a ballroom dance instructor, a lot of them were my students. So they were very used to seeing me, obviously with my clothes on.
Yeah.
And then to like be like, oh, there she is in pasties and a thong. And
Yeah.
that is it. So
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. Like burlesque is so much fun. I've never done it, but I've gone to several burlesque shows.
it
And
is.
one of my roommates, when I used to live in New York, she was a chemist. She worked in a lab during the day. And in the evenings, a couple nights a week, she'd go to the slipper room. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
I
it.
am.
Yeah, she'd go to the slipper room and dance there a few nights a week
I
and
love
put on a
it.
show. And
It's very confidence building. And I've honestly, like, you feel so good about yourself and it's so body positive. And there were women in our troupe of all shapes and sizes, all ages. I
yeah.
had a woman in my troupe who was in her 60s with she was smoking hot too. And we're like, everyone's like, she's 62. We're like, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
amazing how everyone I know who does burlesque is someone who's so unassuming. If they're one of those people that you would never expect, that like 3 nights a week they're in pasties on stage.
Yeah.
Because there really is this art to it. There really is this like art form to it and this history to it. And usually the people who are into burlesque are also into the history of it,
Yes.
having vintage pieces, like
Yeah.
doing their research, things like that. So it's like this whole culture.
It's
It's
not
not just getting
just
up on
taking off
stage and
your clothes.
dancing,
Yeah.
you know.
And that, so we always tried to make, when I had my own troupe, which was called Absinthe and Opium, I tried very hard to make
Ooh,
it more like
naughty.
naughty, but like old school vaudeville. So we
Yeah,
always
that's what
had,
I mean.
yeah, we always had, comedy. We
Mhm.
had traditional dance because my husband and I would dance as well with our clothes on. We would have music, like singing, dancing, everything. And every once in a while we would have a magician or a clown.
Cool.
So we tried to like check off all the boxes. So it wasn't
Yeah.
just, number after number of the same thing. Striptease, striptease, striptease. It's, people
Yeah.
left with a full experience. And we've made people cry too, in a good way, like because it was
Oh,
powerful.
that's awesome. In addition to your dance career, you're this amazing author. So let's talk about your books.
Yes. So I tend to write literary horror. I love horror in general, but I'm not a writer who tends to write a lot of like monster stuff, or
Mhm.
it's not super gory. I tend to use human emotion as the key to my horror. So my book, Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, which won the Kindle Award, is really a story about grief and about regret and about fear. So I use those very like primal human emotions and create a horror story around that. But it's very much character driven, very psychological.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit, without giving away too much? Can you tell us a little bit about the plot of this story?
Yes, I can. So the story centers on a man named Adam who lost his wife and his young son, who is 4 years old, in a car accident. And after that car accident, he kind of slowly loses touch with reality. He's descended into alcoholism. He has had a suicide attempt. He's incredibly not only suffering from grief, but he feels incredibly guilty. He has survivor's guilt about their accident. He goes to some grief support groups and AA. And at one of the grief support groups, he hears somebody talking about an island off the coast of Maine that if you go there and you want it bad enough, you can be reunited temporarily with your lost loved ones. So he becomes obsessed with that idea, and he wants to reconnect with his son, his 4-year-old son, basically to apologize or just to see him again. So he goes to this haunted island, and he's staying at an old boarding house that happens to be very haunted by a ghost of a woman who died 60 years before. And she spent the past 60 years haunting the man who murdered her, who is the one who runs the boarding house that Adam is staying in. So Adam, this now very elderly man named Anthony, who's a murderer, and this ghost sort of develop this very toxic, I call it a menage a grief or a menage a guilt relationship. So they sort of drive each other closer to the brink of insanity. And all the while, Adam is still trying to connect with his son.
Sounds fascinating.
There's a lot to it, and it's hard to.
Goodness.
It's a lot of it's written in free verse poetry. Like, so every time the ghost speaks, it's written in poetry instead of in just traditional prose. So, I mean, it was an idea that I had 20 years ago, and I thought, oh, I'm going to write a play. And it didn't work as a play. And then I tried it again as a graphic novel, and I couldn't find an artist. And then I just decided, why not just write it as a novel? Like, I haven't tried that. And it was meant to be a novel.
My novel was originally a one-woman show. It was originally. And someone's like, this would be a great book. So I adapted it.
That's exciting.
And that's how that worked out. But it's funny how, like, sometimes, you know, a story is meant to be told, but you just have to find the right kind of way to tell it. You know, and sometimes that's the medium, whether it's like a theater piece or a book or a film, or, you know.
I know. I realized when I tried to write it as a play, there were things in my head that I knew I wouldn't be able to convey on a stage. Those things could be conveyed in a film, or they could perhaps be conveyed in a graphic novel. But like on a stage, a 3-person show with my no budget that I knew I would have.
I totally hear you. But yeah, it's amazing how it got reincarnated into this fabulous book. So please tell us, where can we find you? Where can we find the book? And of course, we'll have the links below, but just let us know anyway.
The easiest place to find me is my website, which is jenniferannegordon.com, and that's Anne with an E. That has links to my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter. I'm not super active on Twitter, but I'm moderately active on Facebook. So if people want to only stalk me in one place, Jennifer Ann Gordon author at Facebook is probably the easiest.
Great.
My website also has the information for my podcast, which is called Vox Vomitus, and that is on Wednesday nights on the Global Authors on the Air Network. And yeah, you can find my books at Amazon, at bookshop.org, at Barnes & Noble. But again, all the links are on my website, jenniferannegordon.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for chatting with me today and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everyone out there in the interweb, for tuning in today. I would like to challenge you to do something you never thought you would do. Let us know what it is in the comments, and let us know where you end up. Have a beautiful day.